It's not about truth and what Donald Trump believes. It's about Donald Trump feeling that he can lie and behave illegally with impunity, and he's getting away with it.
And here on PNR and Friends, Adam Bolton, Times Radio colleague, and Anna Mihail over from the Mail on Sunday. And Molly Ball joins us on the line from America, the senior correspondent at the Wall Street Journal. Molly, can I ask you, I mean, I realise completely, and it's pretty clear that when it comes to Vladimir Putin, he's in some ways quite predictable. When it comes to Donald Trump, you only know what you're going to get when it actually happens. But do you have an expectation of how the president, Donald Trump, may play this phone call tomorrow? Talking to that Ukrainian former Prime Minister a bit earlier on, he was suggesting that he thought it was possible that Trump could give significant concessions to Putin and then turn around on Zelensky and try to twist his arm into accepting them, using those same old levers, intelligence, arms supplies, and so on. I mean, do you have your own view on how it might play out? I know we don't know, but any sense?
No, I mean, I think that is certainly one possibility, and that is the possibility that many people most fear, who do not, want to see the Ukrainian side have to essentially surrender in these negotiations. And of course, Trump's critics have persistently said that that is what he intends to do, is sort of give away the store to Putin. I think that, the president has, certainly since the Zelensky meeting, heard a lot of those criticisms. And so there is a chance that he will, being mindful of that, want to show that he can be tough on Putin, as he frankly hasn't been very much to date. But he has made some noises about, sanctions and tariffs and finding some way to exert leverage over Putin as well. But I think it is very much an open question, and it has to do with everything from, what mood the president wakes up into, what he sees as the endpoint he's trying to achieve in these negotiations, and all of that is being played, quite close for understandable reasons at this point. And I think we're all in quite a lot of suspense to hear how he casts the meeting, how Trump casts the meeting once it's been held. But I don't have a prediction for you, partly because as a matter of policy, I stopped trying to predict anything about Donald Trump some time ago, but partly because I think there really are a lot of ways that this could go. Yeah,
it's perfectly reasonable position. And I just wonder, Molly, how much pressure Donald Trump is under there in America. I mean, we talk about this and talk about this and talk about this more here in this country, and I'm sure all around Europe it's pretty much the same thing. I was just keeping half an eye earlier on, just an hour or so ago, on the White House briefing with the White House spokesman there. Didn't seem to be taking questions on this. I know there's a lot on the American plate, whether it has to do with the deportations of those Venezuelan migrants, whether it has to do with the trade wars with Canada and all of the rest of it. This didn't seem to get, they may have done when I wasn't looking, but it didn't seem to get much of a look in. Is there a lot of domestic pressure, whether inside, well, probably limited amount inside the Republican Party, but with public opinion?
Yes and no. I would say, on the one hand, yes, there is quite a lot of domestic pressure, particularly when it comes to the economy. The fact that there are jitters in the stock market and that we see various economic indicators starting to look a bit wobbly, the fact that members of the administration are leaning into the idea that, in fact, there might be a negative economic shock, and that is, they say, intentional and part of their plan. All of this has made some Republicans uneasy, and certainly some of the Trump's allies in the business community. It is also the case, as you say, that there is a lot going on at once, that and that is intentional. The administration has purposely come in, and in the first, it's only been 50 days of this administration, 50 odd days, and in the first 50 days, they have lit fires in multiple places as part of a strategy to sort of overwhelm their critics, overwhelm the system, overwhelm anyone's ability to sort of successfully push back against this. The question it becomes, have they burned through so much political capital so quickly that they now find themselves at a place where they're out? That hasn't really happened because it is still early days, because there's a feeling that the electorate did give Trump a mandate for for disruptive change. And so if that is what is happening, it is seen as what people wanted in the first place. And as you say, it means that even when there is this very consequential negotiation happening over Ukraine, it is just one of many extremely disruptive initiatives that the administration is pursuing all at once. And so nothing is sort of at the center of attention because everything is on fire simultaneously. And it remains to be seen whether the administration is able to push through and have that pay off as a successful political strategy, or whether it will end up making so many people unhappy over so many different things at once that they end up paying a price.
All right, I want to just turn to another one of those fires then, since you make the point that fires are burning, all over the place, having been set by the administration. The fire burning very, very hot, of course, is on the front of trade policy and the tariffs against Canada and the threat of a trade war with Canada, which is already pretty much underway, Molly. And I think just overnight, where we were, Donald Trump was talking again about Canada. And this is the thing which slightly perplexes me, which is Donald Trump, in the case of Canada, talking about the payments, as he puts it, that are made to Canada by America, $200 billion worth of payments. He's referring to trade. He's referring to the buying and selling of goods, just as he refers to tariffs, which he says are being paid by the country, which is the country from which goods are exported. In both cases, it is demonstrably, plainly, obviously false. And yet he keeps on saying that. How does he get away with it? I'm not remotely being smug about British politics here, but no British politician could get away with that kind of falsehood for more than 5 minutes. How does Donald Trump keep on saying it and not being pulled back?
Well, I don't know what you mean by get away with it in the sense that, there's not an enforcement mechanism here, right?
Sure.
We don't have a dunk tank where when someone lies, we push a button and they fall in the water. So if a British politician wanted to say something that wasn't true and simply keep saying it over and over again, I'm sure they could do that and no one would have the power physically to stop them from doing so. And that is what Trump has been doing for his entire
I think
career,
the difference
particularly when it comes to trade. People have contradicted him. People have argued with him. People have told him that this isn't how things work. And it is simply his unshakable belief that he persists in asserting. And I think most people have stopped trying to contradict him, frankly, because it's clear that he will not be dissuaded from this unshakable belief that he has held, if you look back at his public statements, for going on 4 decades. It is his unshakable belief that foreign countries pay tariffs. It is his unshakable belief that any kind of imbalance in trade means that Americans are getting ripped off, that this is a zero-sum game, and if you have a trade deficit with another country, that must mean that you are getting taken advantage of. And that is, again, the unshakable belief, the lens through which he sees the world, and he is making policy on that basis.
Yeah. I'm still distracted by the idea of a ducking stool. I just can't get that image out of my mind. But still, Adam.
Yeah, well, the big difference is we've got a parliamentary system, and if our Prime Minister was going off the reservation, they'd be got rid of. Margaret Thatcher is one example of that. After 10 years of being extremely successful, and Parliament would immediately challenge the truth.
Boris Johnson and Partygate.
Of what Boris Johnson and Partygate, of what a leader was saying or doing. And of course, in America, the problem at the moment is that both houses of Congress are dominated by the Republicans, who have decided that it's best in their interest to throw their lot in with Donald Trump. But we should also see this. Molly says he believes this. I don't know whether he believes it or not. He says it. And, again, what we are seeing coming out of the United States is an assault on truth, an assault on anything contrary to Trump. So one of the sidelines today is that the Voice of America has been shut down, which used to try and provide impartial information about what was being said about America to the rest of the world, along with other agencies that were in the business of communicating on behalf of America to the rest of the world. And instead, we get the slop that's served up by Elon Musk and others like that. And I can appreciate that, the Wall Street Journal, for example, has been heavily critical of the trade policy, that there are voices who are trying to be critical, but equally we've seen, the Washington Post, the most famous journal for, exposing the government, if you like, being silenced by its new boss, Jeff Bezos, who's another tech person. So, there's a really serious thing going on, and it's not about truth and what Donald Trump believes. It's about Donald Trump feeling that he can lie and behave illegally with impunity, and he's getting away with it.
Definitely.
Molly?
Look, I take your point that we don't know what is in his mind, so maybe I shouldn't say that I know what he believes. It has certainly been a consistent belief that he has articulated over the decades and in the face of widespread contradiction and condemnation and, the press and others pushing back or arguing or questioning him about it. Now, I am on the news side of the Wall Street Journal, not the editorial side. Similarly, the Washington Post on the news side continues to do a fantastic job, as I think our newsroom has as well, of telling the truth, reporting the truth, holding the administration and others accountable for statements they make that are false or contrary to reportable facts. So I don't think it is the case that, Americans don't have this information available to them. I do think it is a problem which applies equally to the British media landscape, I'm sure, that the information landscape is quite polluted and people don't necessarily trust the legacy media to be the arbiters or the gatekeepers of what's true and what's not. And so we see that in surveys, most people are getting their information from social media where you don't have the same kinds of accountability mechanisms to ensure that what's being said is vetted and verified, where you don't have responsible reporters earning a living to actually tell truth from falsehood. And so I think it is the case that, many people are living their lives inside of TikTok or on X, and how are they supposed to know what's true and what's not when all of this is in front of them?
So true. Molly, always a pleasure to have you with us. Do come back and see us again. Now, Molly Ball there at the Wall Street Journal. Anna, thanks so much for coming in again. Also, Adam, looking forward to next time.